Hi guys, my name is Lauren Berman and I'll be doing a presentation on citizen journalism. Now, a good definition for citizen journalism, and I'm going to throw it up on the screen for you, is the collection, dissemination, and analysis of news and information by the general public, especially by means of the internet. And nowadays, with the smartphones that everybody has, the iPhones, the tablets, the Androids, the cameras, the access to the internet, we have a lot of citizen journalists posting things online and trying to inform the public about what's going on. I mean, in the recent months, we've seen it with the Ferguson riots, where a lot of people on Twitter who were currently in Ferguson were posting what they were seeing going on. For example, the police brutality and the rioting and the broken store windows, and they were using Twitter to inform the public about what was going on. We've also seen it happen with the tragic shootings of the editorial staff at the Charlie Hebdo satirical magazine in Paris. And Reddit is also a huge source of citizen reporting, as well as blogs online. And while there are huge advantages to this kind of journalism, the instant communication of news over the internet, to citizens can sometimes get there before news crews to start instantly reporting some breaking news. And also, citizen journalists can also cover specific information that maybe the major news station in that area doesn't find really important. For example, there could be a blog that somebody has about every single meeting of the Board of Education of a certain town, which maybe the newspaper wouldn't cover, but that blog would. So there are huge advantages to it. However, there can also be some major repercussions that I want to cover in this presentation. Specifically, I want to cover a rather famous case of assumed citizen journalism gone horribly wrong from 2012. Hopefully, I don't know if you've heard of it, but hopefully you learned something. It involves an actor called Mike Daisey, who's actually pretty famous if you look him up online, and a popular Chicago-based news radio broadcast station called This American Life, which is hosted by its executive producer Ira Glass. Now, Mike Daisey was an actor who visited Apple factories in Shenzhen, China, and using an interpreter, revealed a lot of the bad things that were going on in factories where our precious iPhones and iPads were made, and the horrible working conditions for workers in those factories. He came back to America, and using his interviews that he conducted over in China, he created a one-man, first-person monologue about those atrocities, titled The Agony and Ecstasy of Steve Jobs. And in the monologue, which he performed in first person, he recalled those interviews stating how workers would work 16 to 18, 20-hour shifts at a time, that the factories were utilizing underage workers, and that the workers weren't getting enough pay, that there were suicides, explosions because of poor working conditions. And his performance was so moving that actually opened up a huge new wave of investigation into Apple by the news industries in America. Now, his performance also caught the eye of Ira Glass from This American Life, who, after attending Daisey's show, asked Mike Daisey to appear on his radio podcast and speak about the show's findings. Now, when Glass's episode with Daisey aired, it was a huge hit with his followers. It was the most downloaded podcast on his show that his show had seen since its creation, and it even moved one viewer to create a petition for better working conditions for those factory workers that got 250,000 signatures and sent it to Apple. So it was causing a lot of change, and a cause for change in Apple. However, a month after Ira Glass posted this podcast, he found out that Mike Daisey had lied about his interviews. A reporter contacted Ira Glass and told him that the interpreter that Daisey used, Kathy Lee, said that a lot of the things that Daisey said that he had done, he didn't actually do. And while Daisey's facts about Apple and the manufacturing factories were true, the working conditions were bad, there were explosions, there were underage workers, there was a lot of dangerous chemicals, workers were being exposed to dangerous chemicals. Everything that Daisey said was true, Daisey's experience wasn't. So this was a bad case in which a journalist assumed that a citizen would uphold the same journalistic standards of unbiased reporting, no fabrication, and truth that journalists have to uphold. Unfortunately, Ira Glass had to retract his podcast with Mike Daisey and then submitted another hour-long podcast showing how Mike Daisey had lied about his experiences. In my opinion, in this particular case, a journalist relied on what he believed to be a citizen journalist. Now, Mike Daisey could be considered a citizen journalist if he had reported these interviews in an article and had posted them on the web. And if he had kept them truthful, then he would have been considered a citizen journalist. However, he was a theater artist. So in theater, you're allowed to fabricate and to do storytelling in order to have a point come across. And while Mike Daisey was reporting on actual events that did happen in Apple, his story wasn't exactly true. That's okay in theater because you're telling a story. And when you see a theater performance, you should not expect the truth, which I think was Ira Glass's fault in the first place. So while citizen journalism is good in its own way, it should never be combined with journalists who are actually performing on the air, because it could just turn out in a very bad way, which is how this